in the SEC. I know the one thing they said in the article is he's adapted to the ever-changing landscape of NIL. But what is he as a coach at Ole Miss in the SEC?
Lane Kiffin's a very good game day coach. Obviously, he makes some questionable calls sometimes on fourth down because Lane's a analytics guy, and he believes if you have more possessions instead of more punts, you'll wind up scoring more points and winning more games. Lane obviously proved last season, man, he did not have one of the best rosters in the SEC and was able to win 10 games for the first time in a regular season in Mississippi history. So I think Lane's coaching star, so to speak, shined the brightest last season. He's probably in that top 5 range. I'd probably put him right up there with Mark Stoops in that 5th spot. And Barrett did a good job of not underrating Mark Stoops because winning 10 games twice in the last 4 years at Kentucky, no one's done that in program history. So you got to give Mark some credit.
All right, so to that specifically, now he's done that twice. Mm-hmm. At what point do you stop calling him underrated? Because everybody has, and it's certainly deserved at this point. It's hard to win at Kentucky, but it's become less hard to win at Kentucky because Mark Stoops has the thing going in the right direction. It's like that job for whoever goes there next, I don't think it's going to be quite as underrated anymore because Mark Stoops says it's not Kansas. You know what I'm saying, Brad?
Yeah, he's going to leave that job when he goes to a top 10 program in much better shape than he found it. But, you can still call Kentucky underrated, fellows, when you look at every preseason projection every summer, and Kentucky's never inside the top 20. Even come off a 10-win season, and, most of us have not ranked Kentucky in the 2022 preseason top 25. So that's a program that I think odds makers have the win total at 7.5. That's one in the SEC that I would hammer because this season's schedule is favorable enough with Kentucky making some noise, and you've got a projected first-round pick at quarterback at Will Levis.
With one of those games they got to play is Tennessee, and Heupel's 10 on that list. To Jay's point, man. Like you say, you done ranked them higher. I looked at the Napier being ahead of him. I was like, well, I can kind of put Heupel above, and but where is he as a coach, man? And I won't say he gets slighted. I don't think it's that, but people are unsure maybe if this offense can continually do what it's doing, kind of like what Mike Leach a little bit with his air raid.
It's kind of funny, man. Going back to your thing about that UK Tennessee game being a big one this year. I think Kentucky plays at Tennessee coming off an open week, and that's also after Tennessee plays, I want to say, Georgia. So it's kind of a prime scenario for Kentucky to win that game, even if Tennessee plays well in Athens. But getting back to your offense question, Josh Heupel, I don't think an SEC defense is going to be able to slow this unit down this season. I think the big question for Tennessee is, how are they going to be defensively? How are they going to be at the line of scrimmage? That's going to ultimately determine whether or not this is a 7-5 team or, one that can go 9-3 or so.
You finished this specific one with perhaps a bowl trip with a 7 or 8 win season can quiet the critics for now. That is a descriptor about Brian Harsin, number 13 on your list at Auburn. Looking at that situation, which is not one you would particularly envy, should Brian Harsin have known before the fact this potentially wasn't a good fit for him? I've seen a lot of people that believe he should have stayed on the West Coast or somewhere closer out there.
I think it is all about fit. He's never had his feet in fertile SEC recruiting ground, and you guys know that when you inherit let's face it, a top 15 job like Auburn, you've got to be able to recruit immediately, and Brian Harsin hadn't been able to do that. We kind of forget that Auburn was 6-2 after 8 games last year and, really had a shot to make some noise in the West, and then I think lost 5 straight to end it. So, there was some Auburn boosters and, some within that fan base who thought, man, maybe we did hit a home run with Harsin. We're borderline top 25 right now in year one, and then they kind of flatlined. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing, how Auburn does the first half of the year, and if Harsin's able to make it into November and still have his job.
Back to Shane Beamer, because we were talking about Heupel in year 2. Well, Shane Beamer in year 2, he had 4 quarterbacks last year, and we know who his QB1 is going to be this year. Do you feel like Spencer Rattler, like another Oklahoma quarterback with a change of scenery, is going to have a chip on his shoulder and something to prove similar to what Baker Mayfield is going to have to do just a little bit further up the road in Charlotte from Columbia?
I was telling some guys at work last week, Major League Baseball has that stat, wins against replacement. And I'm not really sure how it's calculated, but you look at a guy like Spencer Rattler coming to South Carolina, he probably adds, 2 to 2.5 more wins for Shane Beamer's team this season just because of his talent level and ability to spread the football to some of South Carolina's playmakers, get them out of bad plays that, quarterbacks last season couldn't do. But I will say that I think the Gamecock schedule is so challenging this year that, they might be a better team, but have a worse record, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They open the SEC season at Arkansas in September. That's probably a loss. And then their SEC home openers against Georgia. So South Carolina could be 1-2 after 3 weeks, but still not be a very bad football team.
When it comes down to Vanderbilt and Clark Lee, I know their fan base was excited about him, coming back home and pretty much trying to change them around. Where is Vandy? They were 2-10 last year, winless in the SEC. How do you see him being in year 2?
Yeah, I think Clark has got to pick the right quarterback. Ken Seals or Mike Wright. Ken Seals is a better passer. Mike's a lot more athletic, can make a lot more plays on third down. Quarterback play at Vanderbilt, let's face it, man, it's been kind of stinky the last decade or so, really since Jay Cutler. So they need a better player there. And then you look at the first 4 games, I think 3 of those are winnable: Hawaii, Elon, NIU. So if they can get to that SEC opening game at Bama, with 3 wins, halfway to bowl eligibility, that's kind of a Vanderbilt team on the come up. But what's more likely is a 1-3 start, and then Clark's having to worry about losing his team by the time the SEC schedule starts.
Derek Mason was a super nice guy. We loved having him in town. He was classy. He did every interview. He tried to put a smile on his face despite the fact that Vanderbilt couldn't find a way to win pretty much at all while he was there. But looking at it from a business perspective, how poorly do you think he left the Vanderbilt program when it comes to the job Clark Lee inherited? Because this isn't the James Franklin scenario where it began to start to deteriorate after that fake. I don't know if Clark Lee knew just how big a challenge this was going to. I don't know anybody who takes that job understands how big a challenge it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, player development was surprisingly a major downfall of Derek Mason's tenure. And this is a guy who, when he was D coordinator at Stanford, he was the only guy to beat Marcus Mariota twice in the college ranks. I mean, he was a defensive guru, and we just did not see that in Nashville during his tenure. He didn't recruit a number of playmakers. Didn't have staff continuity. We mentioned earlier how important that is in the SEC to have that. So, I mean, I like Clark Lee's attitude. Speaking to him last year at SC Media Days, he seemed like he was going to bring in a more focused and prioritized mentality. But so far it's all about wins and losses in the SEC. And I mean, Clark could be the best guy in the world, but until he starts winning in Nashville, fans are going to be not all that happy during his tenure.
Yeah, go ahead, Mo.
I was just going to say, just speaking of the quarterback position, since you brought that up, this could be an all-star group eventually in the SEC when you start looking at the guys that's committed and potentially coming to the SEC with, Oklahoma, Texas, Tennessee. Bama's always going to have one. Georgia's always going to have one. You got Rattler also over there. Just this group of quarterbacks in the SEC, how dominant can this be, even with teams switching conferences now? Yeah, man,
this is one of the, if not the best collection of quarterbacks in the SEC, at least since I've been covering it since about 2010. I've got, I think, 4 SEC quarterbacks in my top 10 nationally. Obviously, Bryce Young at 1, Hendon Hooker at Tennessee, Jefferson and Rattler. That's 4 of the top 8 nationally, playing in the SEC. Then you got a guy like Will Rogers, threw for almost 5,000 yards last season, and literally no one has mentioned his name this summer. So SEC has a lot of guys, and as you mentioned, guys kind of waiting in the wings who are going to sign here soon. That this is going to be a league that, in the new college football era with expansion and the idea of super conferences, that should be dominant for the next decade plus.
So because of where you are in the country, my old stomping grounds in the Carolinas, Brad, and you're close to ACC and the SEC, what's the condition right now? How are people feeling about the Atlantic Coast Conference? And then one of its members in all sports but football, Notre Dame, is the biggest piece that's left amongst all of what's going on right now in college athletics. Those two stories, how do you see those right now from your perspective?
I was going to say, man, based on the ACC conversations I have daily with guys that I'm around, I would think Notre Dame and UNC right now are the two most important dominoes in this next phase of realignment. I mean, it's obvious that the Big Ten wants Notre Dame, the SEC wants UNC, and I think if the ACC loses out on both of those programs, that's probably the end of that league as we know it. So based on what I've been told, though, I believe it's UNC, Clemson, Virginia, and Miami. Those are the four teams that I think are going to complete the new SEC. And eventually we're going to see, you know, a 20-team conference with maybe 4 or 5-team divisions take on a 20-team Big Ten. So we're going to have basically a new 40-team Power 5 made up of 2 conferences, almost like the NFL does with the NFC and the AFC. But you know, it's all TV-driven, of course, and that's all speculation at this point. But I think I've said on this show before, man, that ESPN is the ultimate shot caller in this scenario, and probably holds more power in college football than it should.
Yeah, well, we had seen that. Wow. What was the old LSU AD that said there were eventually going to be 2 conferences in college football? One would be ESPN, and the other would be Fox. And it does.
Yeah, man, he called it.
Yeah, he did. Well, I'm glad I asked that question because you were very matter of fact on that answer, and we can actually talk about that after. It's always great to catch up with you, Brad. Thanks so much,
absolutely.
brother.
Thanks, fellas.
Yeah, man, he just laid it right out. He goes, "This is going to be the new SEC."
I mean, you look at the power play of players. And just, I know we're ranking the coaches, but even that with the resumes that they have, especially ones at the top.
So we need to cut that last answer because we might need to hear that one again.
Wow.
Because that was, usually you're going to get, it's going to be fluid. Nope, it's going to be this. That's going to complete the new SEC.
Wow.
I want to talk more about that. It's Jay Martin on 104.5 The Zone.
Is the summertime heat causing you to lose your cool? Don't let a broken down or older HVAC unit keep you from being comfortable in your own home. I promise you, there's nothing worse than being uncomfortable in your own home. I've been there a couple times. We had power outages, but never for the HVAC because I know Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. And it's Ramon Fawson. I have the heating and cooling company that's going to take care of all of your HVAC needs. And I just told you, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. They offer free service calls with their repairs, plus low monthly payments on those repairs. And if you do need a new unit, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling offers 60 months no interest financing. Plus, they can provide the financing for qualifying purchases and free estimates on replacement systems. They also back their work with 10-year parts and labor warranties. So when the summer is at its hottest, they are at their best. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, available anytime at springhillac.com.
What the heck is happening, folks? It's Jay Martin Ramon here, 104.5 The Zone. Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports. Appreciate him joining us. Always brings it. And we talked about this. Look, when you do this for a while and you do a bunch of interviews, there's some people who are just like, all right, we got to end it here or we're going to be 10 minutes over because it's going to be a Hubie Brown answer.
Right.
And there's some people that can be concise. You're gonna get exactly what you asked them to do. And Brad Crawford's one of our favorites because we know there's sometimes he's gonna give us a short answer because that's all he's got. Sometimes he's gonna give us a lengthier answer because he's got more content, more things that he wants to design. So at the end, even though we were a little over, I said, I think we can get this one in.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm glad we got it in. Here's what Brad Crawford said at the end when I asked him about, because of where he resides in the Carolinas, where I grew up and spent most of my life. I said, what are people feeling right now about the future of the Atlantic Coast Conference as well as Notre Dame? And here's what he said.
The SEC wants UNC, and I think if the ACC loses out on both of those programs, that's probably the end of that league as we know it. So based on what I've been told, though, I believe it's UNC, Clemson, Virginia, and Miami. Those are the four teams that I think are going to complete the new SEC. And eventually we're going to see, a 20-team conference with maybe 4 or 5 team divisions take on a 20-team Big Ten. So we're going to have basically a new 40-team Power 5 made up of 2 conferences, almost like the NFL does with the NFC and the AFC. But it's all TV-driven, of course, and that's all speculation at this point. But I think I've said on this show before, man, that ESPN is the ultimate shot caller in this scenario and probably holds more power in college football than it should.
All right, so UNC, Clemson, UVA, Miami are the 4 that you mentioned for the SEC. I will explain why UVA is part of this mix. As somebody that UVA is where I grew up wanting to go to school. Yeah. I'm from Virginia. Me and my dad and our friends, we were all Cavs people. And that's one of the great institutions in the country academically. And when I left the state, going out of state to Virginia, 1, the cost, and 2, admission, I realized that dream was probably going to die.
Yeah.
So then it was, I'd like to go to North Carolina. I got waitlisted there, and that's a school where if you know people, you can get in a little bit easier. But I ended up in NC State, which is a great university also. But UVA and UNC are elite academic institutions inside the Atlantic Coast Conference. They are 2 of the oldest universities in the country. And I think they want to be aligned from that perspective because they've been together for a long time. So it would make sense that adding UVA to the mix would enhance North Carolina's interest in joining your conference as well, because I think they'd still want to be aligned. Clemson is because of football, period.
They need it.
It's a good school. Clemson's a good school.
I know, but they go through spurts as far as footballs.
They do, but right now they're catching it at the right time. Yeah. They got a good fan base, all of that kind of thing. Miami is Miami.
I know, but I'm missing a couple from that list.
Well, there's a few that you're missing from that list.
But as far as let's talk about like Duke, UNC.
They don't play out of conference, but I can't imagine a universe where they're not in the same conference
they're not
together.
In the same conference fighting for it, Jay. Okay.
Florida State's a big one.
Yeah, you knew where I was going.
Absolutely.
So where do they go?
I don't know, because we're talking about a 20-team Big Ten, right? So let's do this. Let's go to the break. Let's come back out of there and say, well, then how do you feel that if you have your druthers and you're the Big Ten and you then have your pick, what do you go do to fill out your league? Does Florida State end up in that mix, or are they on the outside of a 40-team league that's built around football? Have we come to a place where Florida State doesn't have a spot at that table?
Because of not winning, Jay. That's simply what it is right now.
And their money is not the same as some of the other universities.
It's not?
No, it's really not.
It's also Tallahassee. No one cares.
That market, that television market. We'll talk about it. It's Jay Martin Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
Brian's Motorsports is shutting down the streets on July 8th today. And why? Well, it's because they are hosting the pre-party for the Southeastern Truck Nations at Brian's Motorsports in Hendersonville at 789 West Main Street in Hendersonville, Tennessee. The event is free. Yes, it is free. So bring your family, friends, whoever you got with you, and come on down to Brian Motorsports in Hendersonville. The party starts at 5 p.m. and has my fam, our fam, your fam, with 3HL starting their live broadcast at 3 o'clock, okay? I'll be on site hanging out for the fun. And for the fun, I mean a whole lot of stuff. There will be a DJ on site Food trucks will be there to purchase some grubs, and you can see some show trucks from all over the Southeast. The ones you've seen on social media, the ones you've seen on Instagram, on Twitter, on Twitch, wherever you wanted to see them, they are going to be there tonight. And also this, if you've been dreaming of a custom design for your vehicle, call Bronze Motorsports. Whether it's a lift, custom wheels, leather interior, audio, and electronics, window tint, or vinyl wrap, Bronze Motorsports is the home of fresh cutting-edge custom builds for all brands of vehicles, including the exotics, okay? Bronze Motorsports, specializing in lift kits, tires and rim, custom interior, winches, step bars, grills, lighting, and graphics. Again, tonight, they're shutting down the streets of Hendersonville, 789 West Main Street in Hendersonville, Tennessee. See you guys there tonight at Bronze Motorsports.
It is 8:01. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. The Nashville Predators selected forward Joakim Kemell with the 17th overall pick in the 2022 NHL Draft. General Manager David Poile says Kemell is a talented offensive player who has top 6 ability. Tennessee added the 15th commit of the 2023 class in 4-star athlete Cam Seldon, who turned down Penn State to commit to the Vols. Major League Baseball yesterday, Cardinals defeated the Braves by a score of 3-2 in 11 innings. For our foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on Air Over the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Hour 3, J Mart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Lifted up by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. The website's all4seasonsgarages.com. So where I went, they came out, put a brand new LiftMaster last fall. Love that thing. Still humming. It's going to last for a long time.
I hope so.
When we sell the house, we're going to be able to put that as a selling point. They know what they're doing. They can get real creative with what they can do with your garage door, how they can help your outdoor living, all sorts of kinds of things. The sun's in your eyes, you're trying to grill. Garage door can help you out there. There's a lot of different things people are doing with them now.
I got a question for you as far as garage use, man. You know how you just always go into the garage, you hit the button, open the door. Like, is there like a number of times like that it runs off that motor? You know what I'm saying? Because I go outside and I hit the garage door to walk outside instead of going through the door.
Sure.
I'm like, am I really just?
No, it's not like a toothbrush head, right?
Yeah,
like, it's not like you have. So I got this new toothbrush.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this, man.
So it's got an app with it, and it knows exactly where I'm brushing. It's like, move to this tooth, move
Get
over
the
here.
hell outta here.
It gives me a timer, and then afterwards it tells me how I did, if I need to touch up and all this. It's ridiculous. But it tells me you have, based on your brushing history, you have X amount of uses left in this before you need to change your head off. I don't think it's like that with the motor. Now, if you're me and you're foolish enough to take an old Genie and try to program it to your car and just keep hitting the button over and over again, that's going to overheat. And then you're going to have to call All Four Seasons Garage Doors, as we did. But I don't think it's like a pro wrestler has a certain number of bumps in their body.
Yeah.
Football players, a certain number of hits, all that. I mean, to some extent, that's true, but it's not. You just got to use the garage door.
That.
You just got to use it the way you use it and just assume at some point you're going to need a garage door.
Yeah.
Or you're going to need a new opener. And luckily we have friends over there that know what they're doing. They're going to put a good one in your place.
That's the reason I asked, because I was just like, man, I hit that button often just to walk outside. I'm like, I could go through the door. Sometimes I just like to hit the button and just walk, just leave the garage door open while I sit there and stuff. I was like, am I overusing this? It's one of those things like, stop pulling on the handle of the door, because eventually we're going to have to change it. I was just...
The question that I have, and I've done research and I've seen conflicting deals is, well, we got CG and we'd like to have, frozen food and stuff that we can thaw out for her and do it in advance, and also just be able to buy some meat in bulk so that we can grill for half a year or something like that.
Yeah.
We just got a refrigerator. We don't have a chest freezer. But there's conflicting deals as to whether or not you can put a chest freezer in a non-temperature controlled garage, because when it gets super hot, how are those components going to handle? Because it's just a hot garage.
Yeah,
most of us have just super hot garages. You usually have AC in your garage. And a lot of people say you can't put a chest freezer in a garage. But I know a lot of people that do.
Right here.
And so I'm just like, we need one, but I don't want to put one in that's just going to get destroyed 6 months after we buy it because it can't handle what's happening inside that garage.
Let me give you one of them my granddaddy stories, okay? My granddaddy, has 2 freezers. Listen to me, Jay, not in the garage, but under the car porch. Okay, so it's outside. There's no door to the garageway leading into the house. Before you get to that door, over to the left side of the door is a chest freezer. It's a big deep freezer is what we called it. He had a stand-up one at one time and had a deep freezer that, the rectangle version on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay, never an issue with it. Like I said, it's one of them my granddaddy type of stories, but it ain't ever had an issue. Ours is in the garage too.
We just don't have enough room in the freezer. Most people don't, right? I mean, it's just we have one of the pull-out ones that's on the bottom.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's bigger than it is when you put in about 4 or 5 Atkins meals, a couple of chicken breasts and stuff, and all of a sudden you filled it up. A few people in the chat are saying insulated blankets, and Mike Otto says you absolutely can. We have one in our garage and have had it there for years.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just find one that I just don't want to invest, even if it's just a couple $100, I don't want to invest in something like that that's not going to give me longevity that is not supposed to be there. But I can't imagine people have chest freezers and big stand-up freezers just in their home. Most people would have them in a basement or in a garage, you would think. Now, a basement might be climate controlled, but, I mean, garage gets really hot in the summertime.
What?
And so that's the only part where it's just like, is it good for electronic components to be connected in that environment?
I don't know if it's overly bad, though, Jay. Most of the time, your garage ain't overly hot though, too. Like what's hot?
Well, I mean, there's a
like
the
where you supposed
LiftMaster
to be
has a temperature for our garage
straight up
built into the buttons and everything. The panel. That's the word I couldn't get, and it tells them what the temperature is, and it's usually 85 or a little bit higher in there. It's stuffy in there because it's closed off. There's nothing climate controlled. If it's hot outside, it's pretty daggone hot in that garage. I just want to make sure that it can handle that.
All I've ever heard that known that, mess up stuff is overusing it, like opening and closing, letting all the
letting all the AC like when the power goes out.
Yeah.
Don't open your refrigerator. Or if you do, open it just to get everything that you're going to need and then close it again.
That never crossed my mind that I couldn't put it in the garage. Heck, I bought one to put in the garage, Jay. That's where I was because of that point.
We thought.
That never registered to me. Man, you just said a second ago, you overanalyze.
What I told you to I should bring him in here and let you see him and have you help me.
Man,
because I can't figure it out.
I said it early on in the show history. Sometimes we just do.
All right, Mike Otto says he's a realtor. Okay, Mike, I appreciate this. He says, I'm a realtor, and all the homes I've been in, I've only seen one person have the freezer inside. I can't imagine a bunch of people having stand-up freezers and stuff like that inside. Everyone else keeps it in the garage. So that tells me we should probably go ahead and get this taken care of.
I got an extra fridge in the garage too. Like nothing's had an
issue.
Right,
yeah. I know a lot of people have like beverage freezers and stuff like that in their garage. That's where they're working. And
where do these people come up with these rules that you can't do stuff when that's been proven for years that we've done this?
I don't know if it's rules or if it's just
what's
not
best
good for these components and da.
Yeah, no, that's never been an issue, man. I have seen people. My neighbor Shad, man, he's a builder, and they now are starting to build houses. What do you want? Butler pantries and stuff with the extra fridge behind the wall and stuff. That's the only instance I've seen, and that's only been one house. That's been one house I've seen with that behind like a wall. No, 2 houses that he showed me, honestly. So everybody I know, Jay, in the garage.
That's what I would have thought. Primo said had one in detached garage for 2 years, no issues. Now in basement after we moved. All right, you guys have sold me then.
Yeah, nah, treat yourself. You better go save that meat. There, I done it again. Okay.
I just came back. What happened? What just happened?
We were having a conversation about life. It's getting good stuff from the chat. People were telling me, giving me good information, smart people that knew things I didn't. And then here comes a meat line from Ramon.
No, I told him to go save the meat. Like go put it in your deep freezer.
Sleepy Ramon Foster.
I'm gonna grow up. I promise. One day, I promise you, I'm gonna grow up.
That's why we can't have nice things. I'd leave the room for a minute.
My bad. Go get your.
I just prayed deep freeze. I just prayed deep.
Apology. That wasn't an apology.
Moan.
Hey, my bad. That wasn't an apology.
Well, that sounded like Stewie Griffin.
Move on.
That sounded like Stewie Griffin. By the way,
like that?
Yeah, that sounded like Stewie. Moan, deep freezer's not a euphemism, is it?
No, it's not in this situation.
Making sure. I don't want you to put your meat in a deep freezer. I don't want that to be a euphemism.
Vibes runner saying the same thing. Growing up, we had to set up like Ramon's granddad.
That's what I've always seen. I just want to know if all these people are out here living wrong. No,
to this
they're
day,
probably living right.
My granddad has still got a deep freezer outside.
We need one.
Yeah, nah. Now drop my meat on the table and let you taste it. Look at Rhett.
Only one thing I have to say on this Friday.
What?
That's it.
Looking for a button, I couldn't find it.
Oh yeah.
That's brand new, so I wasn't sure where that was at yet.
Rhett's in a producer big. Oh, that's from yesterday. Yes, it is.
Jay Martin's Axl Rose.
Hey, he just told you the context.
Yeah.
We were all three. The three of the four of us that you would expect to have been doing Axl Rose were doing Axl Rose yesterday. And the fourth one was saying, what happened?
I was. What happened? No.
Oh, yeah.
That's like top 5 already. I don't know what 1 through 4 is. That's top 5 already, Jay. Yeah. Is the meat table one up there too?
We're not adding that permanently to the board. No.
Rhett signed off on it.
Oh yeah, that's who I'm gonna go for approval is Rhett. Yeah.
That's fine.
A guy who's making a motion right now that you can't see on camera.
Don't need it. Don't need it.
I definitely don't want to see that gesture. I'm glad there's a monitor in front of mine. I don't need to know what else. Nope.
By the way, Zach Parham in the chat told me never grow up. I keep telling y'all I'm going to, and everybody keeps telling me no, don't grow up. That's how you stay young, Jay.
I've already said I'm not. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
You a toy? Well, they out of business. We'll do a pop-up shop somewhere, Jay. Is that what we'll do? I'll say this. I did have the opportunity to go to Toys R Us with my kids, man. I hate CG ain't gonna get that. She just got to go to Amazon.
No toy stores anymore. It's not the same, man.
Gotta
KB Toys in the mall.
Yep.
Toys R Us.
Spencer's.
And KB was they didn't have much floor space.
Right.
So it was a sensory overload situation.
Yeah. Going into those
Toy
stores
is so awesome.
You remember like the wall of like what was
Action
it, little
figures,
bears and
man.
stuff? Yeah, not Teletubbies, but
the
the
Beanie Babies
Beanie
stuff?
Babies. Yeah, you remember all that stuff, man? Yeah, you don't get that anymore. You can go to Target and Walmart and still do it.
The two coolest things for me as a kid
Was
going in, find the wall of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures and Transformers.
Oh yeah,
and the glass case of Nintendo games.
Yeah, buddy. With the
key locks,
with the stationary controller up front,
the one where you just pick in front of the glass case.
Mm-hmm.
Is these little plastic inserts with paper.
Yeah,
you got to take that to the front desk because they had them behind the cage.
Yes, sir.
And the joy, like twice a year, when my parents would say, "You can get yourself one," and I would take that up there, and they would hand me the first. Here's it is. I got my Nintendo, right? I gave up going to Six Flags over Georgia. They told me because I don't think they wanted to go to the amusement park. They're like, you get 2 choices. We skip the amusement park and we'll buy you a Nintendo before our trip. Or we go to the amusement park and you don't get a Nintendo. And I picked the Nintendo, which was the best decision of my life.
Yeah.
And so obviously that came with Super Mario and Duck Hunt. Then I finished pretty high up in the regional spelling bee. We had to drive out of state to it. There's no Toys R Us anywhere near us in Martinsville, but in Winston-Salem there was one, which is where this particular spelling bee was.
Yeah.
And on the way home, they let me get a game. That was the first game that I ever was able to buy, and it was in 5th grade. And that game was The Legend of Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda with the gold cartridge.
Yep.
And I bought it, and I got to take the thing out. And I didn't know anything about the game. I just saw it and looked cool in there. It was gold and everything. Oh, dude, that thing right now.
Should have kept it in the package,
Absurd amount of money.
Eager beaver over there. Couldn't wait to put Zelda in.
It was phenomenal.
What was better, though, before we go to break? Toys R Us or Friday nights at Movie Gallery Blockbuster?
Oh, they're both good because you got to rent games and movies.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, even before Blockbuster for me, we had Sharon's. We had
Video
in
Stop.
Martinsville.
Yeah.
I love a good video store, man.
On
then
Fridays?
the joy when something was in stock, when you could see the tape behind it, like actually this one's here. Somebody hadn't checked it out finally. I get to watch this.
Name me a better Friday than going to movie gallery, Blockbuster, whatever, and going to Pizza Hut.
Oh,
when it was old school pizza.
It's the best. That's the best right there. We talk life on this
Take
show.
me back, okay,
We'll
Jay?
come back and we're going to bring in Eric Cain, so it's going to get less fun.
Oh, golly.
Why do you hate on
I'm
Cain?
just kidding.
Why do you hate on Cain so much? He's
It's
never
just-
been anything but so nice and so courteous.
Nah,
and
he's
helpful
great,
to
but
this show.
Exactly. That's why we're rooting
That's
for
why
him.
we trash him the way we do.
We love Buck, too. He takes more strays on the show than just about anybody.
Oh, by the way, yeah, he said
Yeah, I
he
know.
doubled down on you yesterday.
He can. I'm going.
That's all it took. I got my boy with me.
Excuse me?
I'm going. I didn't even know that he doubled down, but I told Abby, it's like, I'm going to go. I want to support him. I want to support this charity.
Yeah.
I want to go for this.
No, those are the public reasons you're going to go. The reason why you're going to go is because you want to clown him.
I don't want to clown him. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to go out there and ridiculous or anything. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be a passable bowler, and then we move on. But I'm going to go support the situation there.
Yeah.
And look, if I embarrass him, then I'll embarrass him. Woo! Eric Cain next. Jay Martin and Mo, 104.5 The Zone.
Jason. I made that French right there. Did you like that?
Sure, Moan. Son is French now?
Son. Yeah, Jason.
You know what they have in France, Moan?
What's that?
Windows.
Yeah, they do. And let me tell you how you can beat the heat with those windows, okay? Well, Window Nation. Listen to me, man, these tools I got for you. You can save $200 off any style new window from Window Nation. Plus, pay nothing until 2024 while lowering your energy bill and raising the value of your home with new energy-efficient windows from Window Nation, Jason.
Yeah, so I've got it on my calendar right now, looking at my phone today, 1 o'clock. Window Nation at my house.
Today.
They are coming out today. Sticking, drafty, cracked, hard to open, or locking when they close. I don't even know if the window that I really wanted to look at even does open.
You don't even touch it.
The one upstairs. Not sure about it at all, but I know it's a drafty window. I know it's old. I know we're wasting money upstairs on heating and cooling bills. Even with the new HVAC, we get the new HVAC, and then we're actually spending more money after that. We just need to get the windows fixed. So we're going to do the same thing that all of you should do, and that's contact our friends over at Window Nation. I wouldn't be endorsing them if I didn't have faith in them enough to bring them into my own home today. Trusted by over 100,000 homeowners. The numbers are outrageous just in terms of how many online reviews they've got, how many windows they've done as a company, how many custom combinations are available, and just the average installer, 16 years plus experience, over 20,000 windows installed. I can't wait to have them out and just let them. I'm going to tell them, go look at my house, look at every window, and tell me what's wrong.
Do your thing.
That's right. Save $200 off any style window from Window Nation every two you buy. No payments, no interest until 2024. It's a great deal. So good, I'm going to take advantage of it. Save $200 off any style window from Window Nation with every two you buy. Again, no payments, no interest until 2024. All you got to do to get on that schedule is call 866-90-NATION. That's 866-90-NATION, or online. Where, Mo?
At windownation.com.
Hey, it's Jay Martin and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. So I mentioned earlier I want to do this because I might have satiated your appetite. We got Eric Cain coming up. But I talked about new careers and Lee Company and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I got you set, and you're like, man, I want to do this. Well, Columbia and Chattanooga offices, on-site applications and interviews 10 to 3 tomorrow. Statewide hiring event for Lee Company tomorrow at both those locations in Columbia and Chat. So if you're nearby, you can learn all about the event. Go to careers.leecompany.com/hiring event. Certified is a great place to work for the past 5 years. You hear me telling you about it all the time. It really is a great place to work. Again, check it out. careers.leecompany.com/hiring event. Now to Eric Cain on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Cainer, what's going on?
What's up, boys?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, it's Friday, so
Yeah.
like I told Shay, not a whole lot of work's getting done.
Well, it was like me last week, so welcome to the party.
Yeah.
It's because you weren't at work, Ramon. That's the difference.
All right, so Cainer, we're gonna have fun with you in a bit, or we're gonna talk some more about where college football finds itself. But you had told Schaefer, look, when I start talking about recruits, I get into Mel Kiper mode. So tell us about the latest Vols recruit in Mel Kiper mode. We don't have the music, but we're gonna start doing it for you. We're gonna bring you in here, quick hits to talk about people, and we're gonna put music underneath you so you have your opportunity. We've set the stage for you to be boring if you need to be. That's basically what I'm telling you.
Cameron Selden, here's a guy that Tennessee spotted early on in the recruiting process, a true weapon, 6'1", 220 pounds, runs a 4.4 40, good hands, does a lot with the ball in space, can play wide receiver or running back, tremendous upside. But no, really, I mean that's who they're getting in Cam Selden, and I love it. But no, this is a big weapon. This is a big gift for Tennessee because this is truly, and this is kind of hard to believe, guys. Now Tennessee's been on a recruiting run of late, and I do think what I'm about to say can change here in the coming days. But since Nico Iamaleava's commitment, that was in March. Tennessee had only gotten one verbal commit from an offensive player before yesterday. That was Will Stallings, a running back from Las Vegas. Cam Selden was only the second offensive pledge since Nico. That's kind of hard to believe, right? And so this is a guy, I mean, Ethan Davis is already in the class, but Cam Selden, Josh Heupel and Alex Golesh, they believe that they can do a lot with his skill set. And again, he's 6'1", 220, and runs a 4.4, so a very unique blend of size and speed. And it's a big gift for Tennessee. I think that he's a highly rated four-star prospect who can do a lot in this type of offense for Josh Heupel.
Yeah, so if you're tripping over words, you can't beat Mel Kiper. No, so what you just said about Nico, I think it's interesting because if you look at Texas since Arch committed, they've got like 7 or 8 other guys. Like it starts to roll downhill. How important is it to get the early kind of blockbuster charismatic commitment so that you can then attract other prospects based off his back before he ever even gets to campus?
It's big, and it's fair to have that conversation. I've had that conversation a couple of times already this week. It's to my count earlier in the week, and I don't know if they've gotten anybody recently in the last few days. It's been 10 guys who have committed to Texas since Arch Manning, 4 of which have been offensive linemen. 2 of those offensive linemen are 4-stars. They've gotten 2 4-star wide receivers. And so you're seeing people say, hey, Arch Manning, I want to go play with that guy. I'm going to go ahead and jump in the boat. And I thought that we would see that a little bit more here at Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's in fine shape. It's a top 10 recruiting class right now. It's got 15 commits. It's very well-rounded. Potentially could get a couple offensive linemen this weekend, which would be huge. Tennessee's in good shape, but it is fair to have that discussion, like kind of what's the difference? I don't know. I mean, Tennessee was very much in it with Cardinal Tate. Tennessee was very much in it with Francis Mauigoa. Without Nico, Tennessee would not even have been in the conversation for either one. So there's something to it. And Tennessee, eventually got to start closing some of those. And I'm not blaming Nico for sure for not closing that on Tennessee's behalf. But it is interesting kind of seeing the way Texas is going right now. I think they're they're maybe 2 or 3 in the country right now, and Tennessee's sitting at 11. But Tennessee's in decent shape, and we'll see. Again, July is a huge month for a lot of prospects announcing that Tennessee should get and/or are in the conversation with right now.
You say that though, as far as Nico goes, with the or just the offensive weapons that you need. But if you look at Tennessee just in general, I think the way they're recruiting, and again, this is my orange tinted glasses, I know this. But in order to build a university, a program, you got to have the baseline. Defense is something that was a big detriment last year, and they're getting those type of guys. I think that the kid from Missouri is a kid that's pegged to go to Tennessee. We're looking at the defensive backs that they're getting in this class. Also, like, there has to be a foundation. Whether Nico is bringing more offensive weapons in or not, you got to have some big boys up front. You got to have some D-line. You got to be able to play defense still in the SEC. And it seems like if you get a 3, a 4-star, and even better 5-star wide receiver, that's just a bonus, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, Tennessee's gotten guys like John Slaughter and Jeremiah Thielander. They're the two that kind of started this wave of commits a week and a half ago. And those are two guys, two defensive players, a linebacker and a safety, that have long been since linked to Tennessee. So getting those guys to go ahead and jump in the boat. Christian Conyer, who is the number 1 rated player out of Kentucky, winning that battle. And again, I know Tennessee fans don't want to hear this, but that was a good battle to win because Kentucky came swinging until the final hour. I mean, Kentucky made it really interesting, but that's a guy that had his mind made up about Tennessee all the way back in April. And for Tennessee to close that deal, go ahead and get him in the class, that's big. I think that there's a lot of guys on this defensive class that, might not have the highest star rating, but I think will turn into good players. I think Trevor Duncan and Nathan Robinson, two defensive linemen who one's a 4-star, one's a 3-star, I think they're going to be decent football players. I really like the addition of Tyree Weathersby, who committed to Tennessee last Friday, a 3-star defensive lineman who is 6'4", 250, and can run probably a 4.5. He is so athletic, but he's only rated as a 3-star. So you look at these coaches on the staff are targeting some of these prospects early in recruitment, and they don't care about star rating. So I think that if you see Tennessee gaining the commits of some 3-stars this early in the cycle, I think it goes to show you that the staff values these guys so much more. And so on defense, I mean, they need to go get some more cornerbacks. They need to add another linebacker, and they potentially will this weekend. It's becoming very well-rounded on the defensive side of the football for sure.
Eric Cain of the Sports Animal in Knoxville joining us. Cainer, what do you make of what's happened in college football just over the last week alone with the Big Ten and the news of USC and UCLA? And we had Brad Crawford at 24/7 on with us at the end of last hour, and we love him because he's very matter-of-fact, and he tells you exactly what he thinks, and he lives in the Carolinas where I used to live, and he laid out. He's like, look, I've talked to the people in the conference and people around it, and they feel like if Notre Dame and Carolina leave, the conference may cease to exist, certainly as it stands now. And he said the SEC is going to be rounded out, in his estimation, by UNC, Virginia, Clemson, and Miami. So all of that is a setup for you to respond to what's happening in college football.
It's wild, dude. I mean, it's adapt or die, right? And though you can have a bigger discussion on, is this good for college football? Is this good for college athletics? And I think the majority of us would probably say no, it's probably not good, because there's a lot. I mean, the Rose Bowl is a big deal. The Sugar Bowl is a big deal. Big Ten, it's huge, and SEC, they value those two bowl games so much. But I mean, now they're kind of obsolete unless they're in the college football playoff, and they've been that way for the last couple of years. Adapt or die. We are on the verge of, I don't know if it's going to be in the next couple of years. I don't know if it's going to be the next 10 years, but it's looking like it's going to be 2 mega conferences. I'm intrigued to see. There's been so many different reports out there about the Big 12, evaluating and discussing up to 6 teams from the Pac-12 adding it to the Big 12. There's been some talk about those schools in the ACC if Notre Dame decides to join the Big 10, jump frogging to the SEC. Honestly, Clemson would be great to add to the SEC. I think North Carolina would be fantastic. Are they going to break up North Carolina and Duke? I would hate to see that. It should be a race to go get Miami because of that television market. And, the Southern California markets for UCLA and USC are a big reason why the Big Ten went and got those. So it's crazy, man. For the fan here in the next 10 years, are you going to see these two conferences break away from the NCAA? Are they going to have their own college football playoff? I'm intrigued. Sign me up. I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out. The football is going to continue to, get better and better. And I don't know what it's exactly going to look like, but I know that college football 10 years ago is going to look night and day different from college football 10 years from now. I'm confident in saying that.
Yeah, so if you got 2 20-team leagues and some teams are going to be left out, and it's hard. Look, here's the thing. If you're looking at television markets, you made the point about L.A., and that's accurate, but here's what's funny. I talked to Jeff Schwartz and hosted with him on Monday, and that's dialed in as you can be to Pac-12, and he said UCLA is thankful right now that USC said come with us and told the Big Ten to take them because UCLA was not the prize. USC was the prize because that got you in the market. You didn't need them both, but USC wanted UCLA to stick with them. So as a result, UCLA gets part of this pie. But Miami television market, Florida State wasn't on Brad Crawford's list for the SEC. Maybe it would be there for the Big Ten, but that's not a big television market. At the same time, how do you argue if the landscape is changing? Why is Mississippi State staying in your conference and Florida State can't find a home in a 40-team? Like, that becomes the other question. Andy Staples said, look, nobody's having those discussions. I understand that destroys tradition. I'm not saying I want to see that happen. Matter of fact, I don't. But does that become part of this calculus? Because you're going to have schools left out that are potentially more valuable than the schools that are still in some cases.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a point that like no one's even really taking the time to consider. You got Vanderbilt that's sitting there, and they bring a lot to the conference in terms of academics, and of course baseball's phenomenal, and they do some things. They cycle up in basketball every now and again, but they're sitting there collecting an $81 million check, buyout from the TV contract every single year. Northwestern is doing the same thing in the Big Ten, where you have USC that was getting $31 million. It's really intriguing, and I feel like, if you're in one of the Big Ten or the SEC right now, you're safe. But you're exactly right. What causes you to have that mindset? What if you want to add the television market of Miami because that's a smart move, but you want to bring on Florida State because of the brand and everything and the football tradition and the whole athletics department, what it's gone through, because that kind of fits the mold of what the SEC is. What if you want to make room for Carolina, but you also can't leave Duke out? Duke would add so much to not necessarily football, but obviously men's basketball and some other things. Why would you keep in a Missouri, or why would you keep in a Mississippi State, Northwestern in the Big Ten, a Rutgers? It's very interesting. So again, I don't think anybody has all the answers. There's so many different reports out there about the Pac-12 trying to survive this, the Big Ten the Big 12 trying to take advantage of this. They've already added 4 new ones. Everybody's just kind of sitting around watching what is Notre Dame going to do, and the ACC is going to have to adapt from there. So I don't think anything that happened last week is changing the SEC's plans. Maybe it's expediting it a little bit. Maybe it's speeding it up. But I kind of felt like the entire time the SEC was going to continue to expand. Just it might go from a 10-year plan to maybe a 6 or an 8-year plan.
With these new teams coming in and just the conference is changing, I feel like we've kind of seen this a little bit before when you get new coaches coming in as far as their performance. Not that we care about the pressure that the job holds for these coaches, but how does that change the outlook on how they're performing with 20 teams in a conference, with these new teams kind of challenging the original teams of these conferences? Like, everything's get kind of highlighted as far as people being hired and fired.
You would think that it should buy some coaches a little bit more time, right? But that's not how it's going to turn out.
Right.
I mean, anytime you have a losing season, you're going to want to fire your coach. But, I mean, the point remains, you're going from the Pac-12, which is you got a couple of good teams in there that'll challenge every single year. So now if you're UCLA, you're going to the Big Ten to where you're going to be challenged every single Saturday in terms of football, right? It should buy, maybe not Chip Kelly, for instance, because he's been a very I know he had a decent year last year, but he's been, very underwhelming at UCLA. But it should buy coaches a little bit more time, in my opinion. But I don't think it's going to change anything in that respect either. I truly don't. I mean, it's what have you done for me lately? That's the nature of coaching. That's the nature of play calling. I like to compare play calling to recruiting. You're only as good as the last play you called. If you're a play caller, you're only as good as the last recruit you got to bring into the class if you're a recruiter. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting for sure, and I'm intrigued to see how all this plays out. Something that no one's talking about as well is, for football, it looks all fine and dandy, but think about these baseball and softball programs at UCLA and USC. I mean, they're in a really good conference out there in the Pac-12 and great playing conditions. And now your conference games are going to be across the country, number one, going across 3 time zones potentially on a weekly basis. and you're playing in a spring sport that they have to go south to play. I mean, they can even have home games for a lot of times up there because the weather's so bad. So, for the student athlete, passing classes, just the mental tax on everybody. I mean, there's so many things that we don't even consider that comes with moves like this. So it's wild, but at the end of the day, it's all about dollars and cents, and it's a money grab, and that's what everybody's out for.
Man, USC and UCLA basically told all other sports other than football, y'all want to cry in that Pinto or cry in this Rolls Royce. So ride with us.
That's really it.
They are. I mean, they are rich right now. They say it's not just for financial reasons, but they are literally going from $31 million payout to probably 80 plus. It's all about money.
So you get to do one thing. You get to go to a toy store as a kid, whether it's Toys R Us, KB Toys, something like that, or you get to go on a Friday night to the video store from your town and to go get pizza afterwards. Which one of those is more joy for a kid?
All right, so a toy store.
Yeah, those used to exist. You got to go to these stores where they had toys and video games in them. Now you just go to Amazon and you lose all of that. So it's that, or you go to the video rental place where you can rent a tape, you can rent a game, and then you go to, let's say, Pizza Hut.
That's easy, dude. It's you go to the video store. So the toy store was never a thing back when I was little, but you still went to the local movie rental place. You still stopped over by the Pizza Hut afterwards, and you had yourself a Friday night. So that's easy for me. I'll take the latter.
Good stuff, Cain. Appreciate it, brother. Have a good weekend.
Hey, you guys as well. Appreciate y'all.
So, yeah, you get to rent something, but the toy store, you get to keep something. That's the trade-off.
But what did they pump smells into like the video stores? I know you worked at one. Like
not in the ones I worked in.
You walk in certain places like they pump oxygen or something. I don't know what it was, but
it was the smell of all of the new box art and all that kind of stuff. Box art and books, man. There's some good smells out there out of new items. Like
but you
new
know what I mean, though,
smell
right?
Sometimes and new rubber and stuff, but like new videotape boxes, DVDs when you first open them, books. There's some things that just smell right.
And our movie gallery had like the fresh popcorn over there. Yeah, okay. Just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, that's right. We'll come back. We're going to go in Heights. We haven't done that all week.
You're right.
It's time for the competition. It's Jay Martin on 104.5 The Zone.
As leaders in disaster cleanup and restoration, the pros at Serve Pro are prepared for anything, like when the relief valve on your water heater fails and it pours gallons of water into your finished basement. Guess what? Serve Pro is prepared for it. Or let's say you were out popping fireworks when you were told you weren't supposed to, and a spark kind of lit a roof on fire. Guess what? Serve Pro is prepared to fix that too. Or a musty odor indicates you might have a mold problem and it's not your underarms. Serve Pro is prepared for that. You need a lot more than help sometimes cleaning up, and that's why Serve Pro is your one-stop shop when disaster strikes. Not only do they have the equipment and expertise to clean up damage from fire, water, or mold, but they also offer a variety of construction services ranging from drywall patching and document drying all the way to complete structure rebuilds. There's just one call you need to make to bring your home or business back as good as new and as soon as possible. So if you're in need of cleanup from fire, water, or any unpleasant event, Serve Pro is always ready to help. Call Serve Pro and the official downtown Nashville operators at 800 Serve Pro to see how we can help you get back to like it never even happened. The number is 800 SERVPRO. That's Serve Pro, cleaning, restoration, and construction. Franchise are independently owned and operated.
Jay Martin and Ramon 104.5 is done. Thanks to Cain for joining us. Thanks to Brad Crawford, who really brought it in the last hour as well. If you missed any part of the show, podcast, this is wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us the 5-star review if you would not mind. We'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Time to go into Heights to end hour number 3. People are asking pineapple on pizza, yes or no. The answer is yes.
Yeah, I do that. But you know what I do? I offset it with some jalapenos, though, too.
Never done that. That sounds... I'm not that big a jalapeno guy, though.
Okay.
I'd like to stick to ham and pineapple.
Sweet and spicy, though.
I like the ham and pineapple.
Hold that.
All right.
They've always got something.
Gordon Ramsay.
Ooh. I go 6 foot even.
5'10".
6 3/4.
Hey, now.
Michael Rappaport.
Michael Rappaport. I'll go 6'2".
6'2.5".
That's exactly right, Schaefer.
He doing prices right.
What are you talking about? I had a perfect bid.
You did have a perfect,
get the perfect bid.
I
That's
get
right.
both showcases.
You get $100. No,
That's
you get $100.
right. No, I do get $100.
Rachel Ray.
Short. 5'4".
That's what I was gonna say. 5'3 3/4".
And Schaefer gets it. 5 2.5.
God, dog it. All right, you go first this time.
No.
We're flipping them.
Nope.
Usher Raymond.
Raymond? Safe?
5'10".
I got 5'11".
5'8.
Hey!
Whoa.
See, you flipped it and still lost, you
Still
punk.
lost. I was going over the top. Pause.
Keanu Reeves, nicest guy in Hollywood.
6'1".
I think he's taller. 6'1.5".
He's 6 3/4.
Hey, now. Take it. Yeah, you goof.
Did you see the video of Keanu online?
No, sir.
That came out this week. Just kids peppering him with questions at baggage claim. When they found him in the airport, he just stood there, answered all the questions. Because he's just, you don't ever get a bad story about Keanu.
You root for
Ever.
that. You root for that.
I love that dude. I think almost everybody does. Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns. Let's go 6'1.5".
6'2".
He is 6 2.25.
God, dog it.
He was right in the studio against that sign.
Yep.
I was interviewing him 8 years ago. and I was a little taller than he was.
And I tried to go to half to throw you off, Shafe.
I'm scared of you.
It's 4-2 right now. Shafe.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Paul Rubens, better known as
Pee Wee Herman.
Pee Wee Herman.
Pee Wee Herman, RIP, right?
No, he's
No.
still.
Which one of them?
Why are you killing people,
I
man?
thought Pee Wee had passed away.
Nah, that blue chair did.
Let's go.
Blue chair was funny.
Pee Wee Herman.
Remember
5'11".
Yeah. Larry Fishburne.
Yeah.
5'11".
5'10".
He's 5'9".
Yep.
5'2", Shafe.
Ving Rhames.
Starting to be like a Vols game.
We have the meats.
I hope that wasn't on camera.
I don't think so. I went outside the camera frame.
All right there, Beck. All right, Jordan Beck.
Yeah, for real. Ving Rhames, 5'10".
5'11".
That's right, Shafe.
Yeah! What you gonna do? Throw a mustard bottle at me?
I got golf balls over here.
Oh, boy. Rob Riggle.
I ain't
I already told you before, boy, that was the worst interview we had on Fox, I think.
5'8". No, it's the worst interview. Let's
You
go
said
5'4".
Nope. You already said 5'8". 6 feet.
He's 6'2".
I was just.
He was like a former Marine, I think.
Oh, yeah. He was in the military.
former Marine.
It was early, and he was at a golf course in Tahoe, but it was a terrible
It
interview.
was that bad.
Nice guy, but he just is clearly.
When you say nice guy, let me know it was terrible.
Rihanna, who's 34 and is now the youngest self-made female billionaire.
That's crazy. Off of makeup.
And a lot of people thought it was a one and done. I was reading like supposed to be a one-hit wonder situation. People didn't think Rihanna was ever going to have anything else. False.
And guess what she's doing? Not giving them nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Because she got a B behind her name.
That's right.
Let's go 5'7.5".
5'8".
She's 5'8".
God! The halves is even killing me right now.
What's the score? I mean, that was
8-2.
10.
That's ball game.
8-2.
Beat down right there.
Oh, yeah, man.
I'll give you a bonus one just to see if we can make it 8-3. Jake the Snake Roberts.
Jake the Snake. Let's go 6'1".
6'2".
He's 6'5".
Yeah.
6'5"?
I didn't know he was that tall. Wow.
I ain't no way. No. Wow. I
That's-
should have known.
With the
that.
bonus.
Old pro wrestlers
9'2".
were taller.
Yes.
They were taller.
Yeah, because height mattered a lot more back in the day.
Because
like,
of just
looking
you-
like you were larger than life and
That makes sense.
all of that
I
kind
knew
of
he was
stuff.
tall, but that's
6'5".
big dude.
Basketball player and athletes, too.
Fourth hour of the program is coming up next. We are wide open. The off-the-beat question, and it could just lead to story time if you want it to, is Toys R Us / KB / whatever the toy store was for you. For me, sometimes it was going to Rose's.
Hills.
What's Roses?
Old Rose's was like Kmart.
Oh, sure.
Rose's was another version of Kmart where you could get colored pencils and a He-Man toy.
The jingle for the TV commercial was Hills is where the toys
I worked
are.
at Hills.
There was a Hills in Hendersonville
Where
back in the
did
day.
you work, Jay?
Hills was my second job.
Yeah. But Jason also worked at like 24 places. Though.
People ask what video store I worked at. I was a Blockbuster manager, and then I worked at Suncoast.
Never heard of Suncoast.
Suncoast sold at the mall. They were a videotape store.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
Were you also a pimp? Went by Gator?
No, did not go by Gator. I don't even know what that means.
Not really an athlete.
It's from the other guy.
So you get that choice. So you either get to go to the toy store as a kid, and you know that's the games behind the glass, that's all of that, or you get to go to the video store on Friday night, and then you get your food of choice. Maybe it's Pizza Hut. Maybe for you it was McDonald's and a Happy Meal. Whatever it might have been for you, you get to do one of those two things. Which brings you the most joy and why?
Or you went to the arcade.
Oh, I didn't add that, but sure.
I did.
Sure.
That's what I did.
Mary Boff Kill, toy store, video rental / fast food, arcade.
Pay cut franchise tag.
That is.
Paid cutter franchise.
I like
tag.
that.
That's pretty
got
good.
that
That's
from
better.
Darren
I
Bates
like
right
that.
there.
All right, give Bates credit.
Yeah. Bates get credit on
Give
that
Bates
one.
credit. That's
By the way,
good.
go watch and listen
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
latest
yeah.
Raw Room. Our boy Ramon's on that.
Yeah, tell me what happened on that via, I don't know, send me an email because I'm not listening. It's
Yeah,
J Mart and
it's a
Ramon,
memo.
4th hours next year on The Zone.
It is 9:01. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. The Nashville Predators selected forward Joakim Kemell with the 17th overall pick in the 2022 NHL Draft last night in Montreal, according to general manager David Poile. Kemell, a talented offensive player who has top 6 ability. We will eventually find out. Tennessee added the 15th commitment of the 2023 class in 4-star athlete Cam Seldon, who turned down Penn State to commit to the Vols. In Major League Baseball yesterday, Cardinals with the win over the Braves 3-2. It took 11 innings for the win for St. Louis. For our foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once. On your home with the Titans and the Vols, this is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Fourth hour hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio is upon you, upon us. Blessed to bring it to you courtesy of All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. I am pricing chest freezers. Looking for ones that are deemed garage ready just to see what the difference is, but that might just be a cost thing. Moan looked up Suncoast. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember this. And like, here's the thing with Suncoast. Moan's a little younger than us, Schaefer, so he doesn't know this. Back in the day, no one actually bought movies because they were $90 a pop. That's why video rental stores actually had a business originally, is because unless it came on TV and you could record it or you saw it in theaters, nobody had it because tapes were not priced that way. That all changed in 1989. The original Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
They actually sold that at 1998. And when they sold that, it broke the model. And then they realized when they sold all of those, we should start doing this. We shouldn't continue to price these the same way. And then you could actually buy something at a Walmart or Kmart or whatever it was. And then you started seeing more of them. Disney had what was called a moratorium on a lot of their classic stuff so that they still held the rights, and they would let them out of what they called the vault.
Yeah.
And when I worked at Suncoast, when stuff came out of the vault, people be lined up because they're like, how long is it going to be out of the vault before they put it back up? Well, the vault is now Disney Plus, and everything's out of the vault.
I bought some fake. I bought a bootleg Lion King because it had been such a long time before they released it. I bought it for my son RJ at the time because it's like you gotta see Lion King.
I bought the Lion King, the original Lion King, when they re-released it on Blu-ray because I was like, eventually I hope to have a child. Even if it's not something I'm going to go back and watch as an adult potentially, even though that's maybe a different story.
Yeah.
It was that way. People are talking about Laserdisc players. I never had one. I didn't
never
know anybody had one.
When
I said, well, you could. They were just pricey, and I didn't have one. But school was the only thing I ever knew about Laserdisc players.
Yeah.
So the question we were asking, because we're just all over the place, is and now we're calling it sign, tag, or cut.
Yeah, sign, tag, or cut. Yep.
And we all shout out and props to Darren Bates on that one.
Yep. 100%.
Toys R Us or toy store of choice, going to the video store and getting food on a Friday night, or the arcade. Schaefer mentioned that one as well.
Yeah.
And I think that you'd say yes to all of them.
Yeah.
For me, it would be arcade / mini golf because they'd be attached.
Yeah.
Usually, unless I was at the mall and you go to like Aladdin's Castle.
Yeah.
Back in the day or something like that. Only problem with me in an arcade was I just was never all that great at many of them. I played the Turtles games, and they finally released those at home. But I got used to playing my Nintendo and my Atari 2600.
Yeah.
And so I was just more accustomed to playing with a controller in my hand instead of feeding quarters. And I was never that great at Mortal Kombat to where I could just knock a bunch of competitors off all day long and just stay on the machines. I enjoyed the arcade. It was cool because you got to see stuff you couldn't see. WWE Superstars, the original WWF Superstars that came out, and other things later on. I just wasn't all that good at them. I enjoyed them more than I was actually talented at them.
I remember going to the arcade early on, and my mind was blown, Jason. Listen to me. My mind was blown the first time there was this place next to the video store, Video World, and Video Stop in Covington, Tennessee. There was this place. I'd never had this before, man. It's child stuff, okay? But first time I ever had cheese fries. was at this place. I think the name of the restaurant has been long gone now. I think it was called Wagon Wheel. If my cousin's listening to it, he'll text me and let me know the name of the store. But I had cheese fries there for the first time in my life, and my mind was blown. And you can go in there also and just play video games. They had, of course, the small arcade games and stuff like that. But the bowling alley was also right next to the movie video stop and Wagon Wheel. Man, you want to talk about a good time. And guess what, Jay? Walked all across town just to get there, too. It wasn't no drop me off. No, we walking and we're crossing the highway. That was a great time growing up, man. You could just do that.
I mean, just thinking about it, somebody just asked in the chat, did anybody have a Mr. Gaddy's close to him? Yeah, Bowling Green had one while I lived there going to WKU. They still had one in 2015, I think.
Yeah.
I actually went to it. Because they had a pizza buffet on it.
I went to the one in Knoxville. I'm tripping. Yeah. First, I had never heard. Mayo was just bragging on it.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either.
I
never heard of it either.
What is Mr. Gaddy's?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm telling you what, I'm signing is Friday night movie with Pizza Hut. And then when we were doing the book reports, I got my own personal pan, Jay.
Yeah, you get to book it with the star on the
10
button.
of them.
I didn't eat pizza as a kid, so Dad loved that I read books.
Heck yeah.
Because he came up on a pepperoni or a sausage personal pan.
Oh.
I see Slay in the chat. He mentioned the skating rink. The rollabout. The rollabout was my favorite place to go as a kid. Now I don't know roller skating rinks now. You just don't hear them talked about.
You don't
the same way at all. I know there is one. I've driven past it, but the rollabout back in the day they had pole position 2 they had like 5 arcade games. One of them was pole position 2. You had to sit down, you had the wheel and the whole deal. All of that was pretty phenomenal. You mentioned in this during the break, we were just kind of chatting about it. Did you ever rent a game system? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I rented a Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
Because the folks weren't going to spring for that ever. So I rented a Sega Saturn because I wanted to try it out. So it was something like that. I think I rented a PS1 once also.
Did you? And so that's the question, too, as far as renting systems. I rented a Sega and a PlayStation 1 when it first came out. I remember we did do that. We didn't get one. Let me ask you this, because you're probably more familiar with the prices than I ever was at the time. But was Nintendo way cheaper than like PlayStation and Sega? Because my mom never.
No, not at all.
They never ventured over to like PlayStation or Sega.
No, Sega was basically the same price as Nintendo. You just had one or the other. Very few families had both. For me, I had an original Nintendo. Master System was not a thing very many people at all had. The Genesis is when people paid attention to Sega.
Yeah.
I was already a Nintendo kid. I had a subscription to Nintendo Power from the very first issue. Still have them all, as a matter of fact. I think they're in my parents' attic right now.
For real?
I was a Nintendo kid, so when the Super Nintendo came out, I was one of the first people in the city who got it because I called stores day after day to find it, and it just saved everything and basically begged my parents until they had to shut me up to get me that because it came Super Mario World and I had to play that. I sent in a photo to Nintendo Power after I beat that game. Mm-hmm. So I was all in that world. I had friends that had Genesis, so I'd go over there and I would play it. But it was just one or the other. They were about the same price.
Man, people are going crazy about Mr. Gaddy's right now, man. About Gaddy's.
Puka said I probably ate at the same Gaddy's when I was in college. He's in Bowling Green. That's right. Like literally, that thing was about 2 miles from my house. Puka. I didn't know. I didn't actually know.
Letting you know.
I didn't know.
Okay.
But I guess that makes sense.
Is Gaddy's a step above Little Caesar, who's now official piece of the NFL?
It's just different.
It's just different.
Little Caesars, a lot of Little Caesars didn't have a place to sit.
What about
Gaddy's was closer to Showbiz, which was kind of a jockey lot, Chuck E. Cheese. At least I think, right? People can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I don't know. I ain't sure. I'm from a small hometown, so we ain't have all that in the city, Jay. But yeah, everybody's talking about Gaddy's. Of course you did, Ron. He was like, fall off in Mr. Gaddy's with about 3 or 4 people, one person pay, and load up the plate for everybody else. Well, that's what you call being good friends right there. As long as they don't come snatch your plate away.
Oh, we all did that.
For sure.
As long as they
See, I had a great childhood because I had an older sister who worked as a waitress at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
You roll it.
No, the best,
real?
The best experience if you wanted to play an arcade game that you just knew you could do something with was the sit-down Ms. Pac-Man at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
While you were waiting, because you go in there, you would order, and it'd be 15, 20 minutes, and you play a little bit of Ms. Pac-Man before you left. Grease all over it. Because Pizza Hut, you got to sop that thing off with a sponge before you eat it. Carl in the borough. Carl, what's up?
Carl?
Hey, Ramon. Hey, Jay.
Hey, man.
Hey, for me, it was going to be the rent a movie and pizza because the town I live in was small. We didn't have a toy store. Like, we had a Montgomery Ward's back in the day before that happened. But so our family on Friday nights, I'd go to, it was like, we didn't have Blockbuster. It was like U.S. Video or Hollywood Video.
Mm-hmm.
It had VHS tapes, and it had like a little Funko Land game center where you could actually pay $1, stay for an hour, and play on the video game systems. Or I could rent a game too if I wanted to. But then we would go, after that, we'd go to Little Caesars. When Little Caesars was brand new and good, it used to give you like 2 rectangle pizzas, no crust. It was just either pepperoni or cheese, and the crazy bit for like $10. And that's what we do. We rent a movie and eat a good pizza. That's how we spend our weekends. Y'all have a good weekend. Be safe. Hope you guys have a good weekend.
You too.
Appreciate
if you get a
you,
chance, go get a movie, watch a movie, and order a pizza tonight, man. Boy, you want to talk about taking it back a little bit. Goodness gracious. John Brown on Twitter tweeted at us, back in the day, Tilt at Old Hickory Hollow Mall was lit. I never knew about Tilt. I'm not from the area.
Is that an arcade?
Yes, it has to be an arcade, man. Tennessee Legend tweeted at us, also said there used to be a Mr. Legend in Gallatin. He said used to hit the buffet, then NCG, closed probably around 2013. Is that when things started to just really change, I guess? Mr. Gaddy's in. Sign, cut. Yeah, this is a pretty cool topic right here, man.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you just start to think about all the things that used to exist that you got simple joy out of, just going with a friend or two.
Yeah.
I mean, I had at least one birthday party at the equivalent of a Chuck E. Cheese at Showbiz Pizza when I was young. I think I had one at a miniature golf course that had an arcade attached to it. Like all of that kind of stuff. Many of those things seem to have changed. There was a Stevie B's back when I was living in South Carolina.
Stevie B's.
And Stevie B's was kind of they were going to come out and challenge CC's, but be a little bit of higher end.
Yeah.
And they had much more exotic stuff. Like they had a macaroni and cheese pizza and a baked potato pizza and all this other kind of stuff. It was solid and it was jammed all the time.
Talk about carb loading. A baked potato pizza?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I believe it. I mean, it's America, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I mean, if you go in there, you know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You've made the decision at that point in time.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
When we come back, Sports Illustrated has put out a list that, the 12 teams that could actually win Super Bowl, 57 this year?
It's 12 or maybe
57.
13.
12 or maybe 13. Are the Titans on this list? We will tell you. You can continue to chat about what we've been chatting about and answer that question as well. But we'll get into the brass tacks of what SI thinks. This might be one of the ones where you pull out the notepad and keep this one handy in case it goes your way as a Titans fan. It's Jay Martin on 104.5 The Zone. J Mart and Ramon 1045 The Zone. Lonzo says just go to the roller skating rink. If you could kick it just right, you get free credits on Donkey Kong Jr. Always those moments, always those things where you knew this skill crane is rigged in your favor.
Man, I saw somebody put in Celebration Station.
Yeah,
man.
I remember we had one in Greensboro. I think it was the nearest one to me.
Yeah. You want to talk about a party? Golly.
SI.com. The 12 or maybe 13 teams that could actually win Super Bowl 57.
We're on 57 already, Jay.
Number 1, the Bills. It's not in necessarily any order. There are a couple of tiers here, but I think it's alphabetical within. No, maybe it's not. Hang on a second. It may not be. I think it might be in order. Okay, number one, Buffalo.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any real. Again, this is teams they believe have a shot to actually win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They do, but again, I think they're in similar to what Brad Crawford said about South Carolina. It might be a better team.
Yeah.
Might have a worse record because the schedule got much tougher.
Mm-hmm.
3 is the Ravens.
Ravens.
He starts it off by saying, my off-season love affair with the Ravens is well known. Here's a column about it. Here's a podcast about it.
You let it be known, man. It's going to be interesting to see with Lamar. I'm kind of rooting for him, even as much of a rival I was to him. I kind of want to see what he's going to do. He's got a bunch of young receivers that don't know what they don't know. You know what I'm saying? And an all-world tight end, too. The offensive line, they get Ronnie Stanley back this year. They could be better, and the defense is always pretty good. So,
and we know Mark Andrews is excellent.
Yeah, that's all-world tight end.
4th team on the list is Indianapolis.
They're on the list.
They're on the list.
For
number
what's the name of this? The 12 teams.
12 or maybe 13 is how it's written.
Yeah.
Teams that could win the Super Bowl.
Actually win the Super Bowl. Boy. Want to get more into it?
We will.
Okay.
Let's go through the list, and then we can go back to that one.
All right, cool.
Dallas is 5. Garbage. Absolutely don't believe that.
Hype.
They could win their division because it's that division, even though I would take Philadelphia. But that depends a lot on Jalen Hurts. Dallas is not better than they were last year.
I don't think they were, especially
after
losing
I'm not out on Dak, but I'm not fully in on him either. I just don't like that mix, and I don't like McCarthy.
Yeah. You've been saying that for a while. It's almost like Sean Payton's waiting on that job, right?
It seems like
sad but true.
I don't think they're better than they are.
Yeah.
Or better than they were last year, I should say. That statement didn't make any sense.
They always get a pass, though. Always.
Jay. Yeah, because they're Dallas.
Yeah, because they're Dallas.
6 is Kansas City. And until further notice, they are, but losing Hill is going to make a difference.
I want to see how they're going to replace him.
I want to see if they win the division, if they're a wild card, or even in the mix there. Chargers are next. They've got a top 5 roster. I have them pegged to be this year's Ravens. I've said that already.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to run into some bad luck, and they're going to underperform this hype.
Yeah. They got a lot going on, man. They got to get all that to work for them. Like I said, going to get going to get Khalil Mack was a huge upgrade for them, I think, just in general. But, again, we got to see how he looks. They ain't going to say he went into purgatory a little bit when he was in Chicago, but it wasn't a great fit for him at all.
Yeah. Denver is next. Yeah. Denver's got a top 5 roster in the league, and they've got Russell Wilson, who's already won a championship, who's going to be certainly eager to prove that again. It's a tough division. They've got the talent. I can understand why they certainly would be a team you put on the list. And the Raiders are next. So you know what that means?
What's that?
The entire AFC West are in this list of 13.
Buck asked me that yesterday. I stayed on with him and talked about what division was I most intrigued by, and I said the AFC West. I said 3 should make it to the playoffs, and it was hard not saying a 4th one would. I don't know if he was taking a shot at you or not, but he said Denver would be out.
Who did?
Buck.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't a shot.
I mean, whatever. I mean, somebody's going to be out in that division. The team that I look at and I still think people aren't giving them enough credit is Vegas.
It's Vegas.
I think the Raiders are incredibly dangerous. Yeah. When you look at Waller, Renfro, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs.
Solid line.
Who didn't get his option picked up, so he's going to have something to prove.
Fighting for a job.
Derek Carr, who has a friendly contract. You bring in Chandler Jones. You still got Max Crosby.
Yeah.
They've got talent. I think the Raiders are incredibly dangerous, and Josh McDaniels.
Yep.
On top of that, Green Bay is next. I know Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback. I'm not putting you in this list. I'm sorry because I don't know who you're throwing to.
Me either.
You're throwing to a bunch of rookies. You got. It just seems like to me, Aaron Rodgers took the bag over another championship
And went and got a tattoo
of a third eye.
That's so Aaron Rodgers.
I'm
with you. As great as he is, I need to see this magic trick come together.
I don't think this team's better than last year's. And
No.
last year's, he was cheeks in that playoff game.
He was. Another first-round bye knocked out, too.
Tampa Bay is next.
Because,
Tom. And look, they're good.
They got a good team.
They're good.
Yeah. It's crazy nobody's really talking about them as much this year, though, too.
Watch out. That's all I'll say about that. Watch out.
There was also the rumors. Who was speaking of that earlier? Well, they think Gronk will come back again.
Oh, it was Mike Evans that said he hopes he comes back.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, sure was.
The Rams are next. Of course they are.
Because,
There's no reason to even really discuss that. There's one wild card. Well, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say, you think Odell goes back. I mean, he's still a name that's popping up as far as free agent wide receivers. Of course, the ACL is a thing. And why rush it if you don't want to pay him anyhow right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, they got Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
To go with Cooper Kupp. To go with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
To go with Higbee. To go with Aaron Donald. Sean, maybe. I mean, look, they're going to be Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
They're going to be good. Yeah. And then the wild card team on this list is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Philly.
All the talent in the world. I don't know about the quarterback. And I don't think anybody knows about the quarterback. I feel better about Hurts than I do about Tua right now.
Okay, so let me ask you this: as far as feeling great about one and not the other, not sure about Philly, and I'm kind of with you too. You got to see what he does with all these new weapons. Considering AJ Brown called him an all-star team, same way as Vince Young did too. Wording was different, but the same thing. Do you feel the exact same way about Matt Ryan in that situation too? Like if Philly's bonus, but Indy ain't, and both have questions about the quarterback, what's the separator?
I don't know that there are the questions that exist about Jalen Hurts about Matt Ryan.
Gotcha.
I mean, Matt Ryan's knock is he's not going to escape very much.
Right.
But Jalen's is can he throw?
Yeah. To his guys too.
Right.
So.
Is he going to overthrow, underthrow? Is he going to put it where his guys can do something with it, even if he gets it close to him? And you've got the guys to do it. Nobody you want to root for more than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
I can promise you that. But I don't know. I just don't know. So that's your 13. Yes, there was a team that was not mentioned. That was the Tennessee Titans. So he lays out the piece and he talks about it was really hard for him not to get the Patriots on this list because he's a Belichick apologist. Well, you can't get them on it because they're not going to be there. And then he said, I wanted to try to sneak the Vikings onto this list because it's a weakened NFC and he's got an offensive guy and maybe Cousins actually gets unlocked. Okay. I can see that. But then he says this. Titans-Colts was perhaps the single most difficult decision of this exercise. I switched the teams about a half dozen times before submitting the piece. My final determination comes down to some slight edges I feel Indianapolis has in offensive line age and health, running game age and health, quarterback experience, and tight game offensive play calling. I think both teams will almost certainly be in the tournament.
Wow.
And this is what that right there, I was pressed. I think Jeff made me answer this on Monday, and I didn't really want to answer this question yet. I wanted to wait until we got further in, closer to the season. But he said, right now, are the Titans in the playoffs? Wow. And he wouldn't let me off the hook on it.
Did he?
And so I said, right now, today, I say no, because I think Indy's just a hair better. But that's the point. The point is, it's one game this way or that way. They could end up with the same record, and it could be tie breaks. If you look at it, they're built so similarly.
Yep.
With quarterbacks that have done well, one that's got an age concern and one that's got a clutch in the playoffs concern. They run the football particularly well. They've got the two best running backs in the game with Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Defensively, we talked about this yesterday. Darius Leonard was number one in that linebackers rating. And they've got Gilmore on the back end. Kenny Moore also.
Yep.
And they've got DeForest Buckner, who was number 4 on the defensive tackles list.
Yeah.
Of course, you got Big Jeff. You've got Harold Landry. You've got Kevin Byard. You've got Bud Dupree. You've got similar thoughts there. Receiver, unproven both sides. You got Michael Pittman, who you believe in.
Yeah.
And you got Robert Woods, who, assuming he's healthy, I think you believe in. But you have seen changes at tight end with both. Jack Doyle retired for the Colts. Here you bring in Austin Hooper, and you hope he can recover what he was in Atlanta as opposed to what he was in Cleveland. Traylon's a completely unproven commodity.
Yep.
Phillips, completely unproven commodity.
Mm-hmm.
You just have a lot riding on guys that have not been placed in these roles yet. And then you got coaches. Reich and Vrabel are both excellent. I would certainly lean Vrabel, but Reich is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
You got front office guys that are pretty well respected in John Robinson, and his name escapes me right now. Ballard.
No, Ballard.
Chris Ballard.
Okay, Ballard. Yeah.
There's a lot between those two. I don't think much separates them. It's a two-team race in that division. They're both going to be good. It's going to be tight. I can see having a hard time trying to determine between the two.
The one thing that I'm hoping happens this year is for the Titans' sake and for their team's sake and for the city and fan base sake is Ryan Tannehill lets it go. Not the ball, the effects of 1-22-22.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can't let that fester any longer. Like, starting the season off, somebody asked him about that in preseason, in camp, wherever he's at. He got to pretty much be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because that's how he's got to approach this year. There's a lot riding on it as far as getting into the playoffs to me, because the roster, to you said, ain't far off from being an elite type of roster as far as the way they play ball. Not necessarily the players, the way this team here plays ball, running the ball, play action, coming back, a physical style of ball that the Titans are playing. The biggest issue for me with this team is that team up north. Again, they were a solid team last year, one game away from making the playoffs because Carson Wentz crapped the bed.
Wentz. That's right.
Yeah, he crapped the bed. And say what you want to about Matt Ryan, he is a former league MVP. We speak about his age, his ability not to be mobile, but let's not act like the arm wasn't decent last year. Let's not act like he wasn't under a bunch of pressure when it came down to it. And you got to look at the excitement also of Frank Reich. Frank Reich and the owners in Indianapolis came out and said, we need an adult in the room. That ought to tell you everything they felt about their quarterback position last year, and they still hung on tight for the most part of the season until it just really fell out of the sand pretty much ran out of their hands. Tannehill, Matt Ryan, it's got to be looking forward for Tannehill, man. It must be. And again, I saw the non-quarterback MVP list come out. Guess who was ahead of Derrick Henry?
Jonathan Taylor.
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about two running backs. We're talking about two quarterbacks. And we're also talking about positions along that offensive line. We're speaking about offense because I think that's the biggest issues with both sides. With Indy and the Titans is, what is that offensive line going to look like? They got a hole at left tackle that they got to figure out, and the Titans got one at left guard and right tackle with a young guy in Dylan Radins who's probably going to start at right tackle potentially. But either way, it's young guys at those positions or free agent when it comes down to Indianapolis. So the edge, like you said, who makes it? If we're talking about three teams out of the West, Jay.
And I don't know that we will, by the way.
Yeah, because
I think injuries, and I think they're going to beat each other down. I can see two coming out of there.
Yeah.
You could maybe see two come out of the East, but it would have to. I don't think it's going to be New England, so it would have to be Miami.
What if the Jets actually look like something this year?
I think if the Jets look like something, they're a 5-win team, or a 6-win team.
Not even that, though, but the fact that they can win against Miami. Because you say the Jets in Miami game.
Yeah.
Like two young quarterbacks that really got to duel it out. Both got weapons. The Jets did a pretty good job in the draft.
Yeah, they did.
And as far as free agency this year, too. And also they're getting back Carl Lawson, their outside edge rusher this year. So you got to say the defense is going to be better. And the same thing for Miami, what they're going to do. Yeah, they got cheated, but that's one guy, and they still got to play multiple games. So if you only get one out of the East, as far as that goes, where does the Titans lay? What does the AFC South lay? It's a one-team race for the playoffs at that point. You know what I'm saying? So Tannehill has to find his way to never look back again. And if he does, maybe he get another year or two. As far as, being with this team, I think he gets one more. I think he's here in 23. That's just my personal opinion. Because I don't know if there's
I'm on the other side of that.
You
but
do?
It just depends. Again, it all comes down to this. What does Malik get accomplished in practice? That's what I was going to get to,
yeah.
Is he ready or not? What happens? And is there something bonkers that goes on where you take a big swing that nobody sees coming right now? And those are the things you can't predict in advance. And then the other thing is this. And this isn't a Tannehill-specific deal. The division may simply come down to who's healthier between the Colts and the Titans.
Can we say this, too? Also down to the play calling. I think it's down to that, too. Who do you trust more calling plays? They
feel me?
They said
they believe the Titans, or they believe the Colts, and that was one of the advantages, them meaning SI.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, how much better is that going to be? And I know we keep mentioning Tim Kelly's name, but I know the style of ball. But if I was to ask you, Jay, which one do you trust going through the air as far as teams? You probably say Matt Ryan, would you not?
Oh, yeah.
You say him.
Yes.
Considering you don't have AJ this year. Even if you do have Bobby Trees and Traylon and,
right,
Austin Hooper, I still feel like you feel better about Matt Ryan spinning the ball to a guy we don't know, aside from Ryan Tannehill throwing to his court. So this is Tim Kelly's role for this team has to be shown early. And it won't be him to get the credit because we said that. If Todd does his thing, guess what? Todd's going to get the credit. But we'll recognize who's assisted in this, consulted.
We have said this, and I said the most important acquisition this team made, the most important move this team made, and you could certainly say Bobby Trees and Austin Hooper would be in the mix too. It's Kelly.
Yeah.
Because if Kelly can do for the offense what many perceive Jim Schwartz helped behind the scenes sort of unlock Shane Bowen to where Shane could really flourish, then there is no player that's worth what that could be if you could do that for Ryan Tannehill and this passing attack this year. In terms of on the field, I think it's Robert Woods, personally, because of him mentoring some of these guys and him having been through it at the highest level, winning a Super Bowl and having to watch it from the sidelines, but being in another Super Bowl, being a part of the IT franchise, understanding what it's like to be on a star franchise in the league as well, understanding how to play with expectations, all of those things. And then Hooper, if Hooper can be a 600, 700-yard tight end for you, and then you can get something from Chigakonkwo, you've put yourself in a good spot.
About the young guy. See, this is why I was saying as far as Tannehill goes, man, in the zone chat, don't you say that, Ramon. I hear you. We don't want Tannehill in 23. You really need him this year, though, because Derek's situation is a little iffy as far as what's next for him. Can we say that? As far as right now, they haven't redone the contract to move money for him. So you got to ask yourself, well, what are they planning to do? Derek said he's want more money. Whether he said it directly or indirectly, that's out there. And I know you got the young guy Hassan Haskins right behind him. So if Derek doesn't get it this year and Tannehill doesn't play well enough, we might see a blow up of roster, Jay, at some point. Now, I know that's a hot take to kind of throw out there a little bit, but that's the reality of the league.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, say what you want to about it. You need Tannehill to kind of have a good year, whether you retain him or not this year. And if he does have a good year, he's still relatively young. We spoke about it yesterday. They used to push quarterbacks out of the league at, 35? Tannehill's under 35. He still, I think, is very athletic. I think he still has a good arm. Now, his decision-making, that's got to get polished up. And again, I'm hopeful that Todd Downing and Tim Kelly and his quarterback coach find ways to put him into positions where that can be behind him. You know what I'm saying? So, Colts versus Titans as far as who make it in. I need to see the OLs. And again, all things point to me saying I trust Matt Ryan just a little bit more.
Right.
And this is a what type of league? Who drives
quarterback's league?
It's driven by the quarterback. That's the reason Cincinnati is who they are right now.
It's the reason why Cleveland, despite all the moves that they've made that have made sense, and the good acquisitions and the solid offensive line and the decent to good drafting they've done, still can't win that division because they never found that guy. And the guy that had come the closest, they just jettisoned out for a ham sandwich. Suave Zombie on line one. What's up, Zombie?
What's up, Suave?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey.
I don't know J Mart, man. Like, I know you're still on Tannehill. I still don't know how much money you lost in that game and everybody else. But we want Tannehill, guys, for a lot of reasons. We want to keep him. All right, he did have a bad season, okay? But we need him. He's better than most, all right? We understand we want to get to the Super Bowl, but we need him because he's going to give us cap space, all right? He's going to be worth it. He's going to give us time to develop Malik. But, guys, Moan, I need you to do me a favor, okay? Calm me down now, look into it, hit the red button, whatever. But, guys, what's going on with their offensive line? Our offensive line is definitely got to be worse than it was last year. So considering Tannehill or whoever the QB is, I mean, even Henry should be worried.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have? All right, what do we have, Moan? Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe it's better than it was last year. I mean, can you look into that for me? Can you give me some hope? Can you hit the apocalyptic, nuke or like?
Yeah.
That's what we need to be worried about, guys. They did not make any moves like get a veteran. They got rid of our best lineman. So what's going on, Moan? Like, I'm starting to freak out, man. I'm starting to freak out.
It's another one of the reasons why I feel like the Colts have a little bit of an edge.
They're missing one piece.
Yeah.
Where the Titans got to figure out two pieces. Now, again, what do you have as offense? You got Ben. We love Ben. No matter how many times he got on the ground, he got back up. Ben Jones. You got Taylor. Taylor's solid. Say what you want to about him. His first game of the year kind of really put a stain on the rest of it. He didn't give up a whole lot other than the idea that, finishing out the games.
Well,
that was a question.
Yeah, well, it's
Remember
how
that?
many games are you going to miss and when are they going to happen?
And when are they going to happen? Those were the questions where you just kind of questioned, well, why are you hurt this game? You were just fine.
Right.
Those were the rumblings that were happening around the city, around him last year. And it was because of that first game. And yes, he was coming off the ACL. I feel like he'll be back better than he was. And you also have Nate Davis, who's playing for a contract. Now, when you look at the rest of the group as far as the O-line goes and what you got to get out of those guys, man, you still have Aaron Brewer. I was on his train, man, although I thought, 6'1", 274 is what they have him listed as. Weight, I don't think matters. I think a lot of that comes down to will. I know at his size, he's probably quicker than most.
Yeah,
6'1",
he's fast for that position.
6'1", playing in this division. Yeah. No, you better have something underneath that as far as strength goes. But I'm not all the way out on it. I know they made some free agent signings this year too, as far as who was it? Jamarco Jones, I think was a tackle that they end up signing this year. That's got to be somebody you hope that's going to help out. Again, the young kid out of Ohio State, he's got to be in the race for it, and Dylan Radins. Again, you lost a veteran. What your uncertainty, Swab Zombie, is because you lost guys that you knew. I'm a firm believer that there are new stars born every year. Given the opportunity, these guys can come together, but they need to solidify those 5 or 6 fast in camp. And you'll get that opportunity, too, because they're doing joint practices. So some guys are going to rise up, and some guys are going to fall to the wayside as far as competition goes, because Vrabel's going to put them right in it.
I would say one guy who you just mentioned, we talked about how Tim Kelly being this guy, this year's version of Jim Schwartz.
Jim
right?
Schwartz, yes, sir.
Well, what else you might like to see is Nate Davis be this year's Harold Landry.
Yeah.
Because you got to make a decision on Nate Davis after this year, the same way you had to make a decision on Harold Landry.
Mm-hmm.
He's a homegrown guy.
Mm-hmm.
You drafted him. Harold Landry showed out, and you gave him the bag after the season.
Yeah.
What you need is for Nate to take that step that you saw him taking. He took 2 steps forward and then full Paul Abdul a step back last year.
Yeah.
If he can then take that step forward again and become your Harold Landry this year, that helps you a lot on that right side.
And the other part of you pointing that out, Jay, is he's the one guy that's young but's got to groom a new guy.
Right.
So he's, to your point, it's necessary. Like we're not. I don't feel like we've talked enough about that aspect of it, man. Great point, Jay.
615-737-1045. When we come back, we'll take Jeff's phone call. You hang out. We'll take that on the other side. Finish up the program. Finish up the week's Jay Martin Ramon 1045 The Zone. J Mart and Ramon, 104.5 is finishing up on this Friday. Tom in Smyrna, what's going on, Tom?
Oh, it's a lovely Friday. Just trying to beat the heat.
Tell me about it.
Man, speaking of beating the heat, we're talking about the Titans got left off of, the teams that could make the Super Bowl. I still think, in particular, with the defense that the Titans have, that they're still extremely competitive. And I think some people are weighing on the concerns that Tannehill may not be the guy. I think part of the reason why they may have left the Titans off this list is because there are concerns about if Derrick Henry could come back to his original form. And I think it is up to the Titans coaching staff to start figuring out ways to not always have the game solely rely on him. And I think losing A.J. Brown was a pretty big loss for you guys, but I think Treylon Burks can definitely help out in the right way. They just have to get creative with these play designs.
Look, Tom, the A.J. point is the right point, right? The national folks who are the ones making these lists. Like, I know everybody's going to say, I don't care about the national folks. Well, national folks are the one that put this list together. To your point, you lose A.J. Brown, you're not better because of that. This season, if Treylon Burks is good, he's still not going to be what A.J. was, we don't think. Like, I guess it's possible. But you lost one of those guys that's in the top 25, under 25 list in the NFL, regardless of position. You lost that guy in the short term.
Yep.
And you replaced him with a rookie who we don't know. So, no, that's not going to help you. And the last time we saw Derrick Henry, he didn't look the same. He's coming off an injury, and he's a little older. He's had a lot of mileage on the tires, and you're not as sure about your quarterback, perhaps, because of the season that he had. There are reasons to be hesitant.
Yeah. And real quick before we get to this call, too, we've been saying this for about a couple years, as long as we've been on this show, too, Jay, about this offense and why it runs through Derrick and what they need to do to move forward. And there was some pushback from the base a little bit. It was like, no, don't speak about Derrick. It's not speaking about Derrick. It's the idea that, look, you say the running game. I don't think the running game from what Jonathan Taylor is doing or what Derrick Henry is doing is more important than what your quarterback is doing. Look across the league. The teams that are the hottest teams, it ain't Kirk Cousins because he got Dalvin Cook. You know what I'm saying? It's not those. It ain't like Matt Ryan is a guy, and you need Ryan Tannehill to be a guy that's going to lead you to that next phase of offense. It ain't dissing Derrick. It's just the reality of the situation. We brought this up about 18 months ago, Jay, when we were having that conversation. Like, they got to transition, and you can still do that while having Derrick on roster. I ain't saying it's archaic on how they're running the offense, but what I'm saying is, look, you better get with it or get gone with the way it's run these days.
No, that's well said. Jeff in the borough. Jeff, what's up?
Hey, guys. It seems like the discussion during the preseason is all about who can we trust this year. Is it going to be Treylon Burks? What about Derrick Henry? Is his injuries better? Can we trust Malik?
Yeah.
What about Robert Woods? That all remains to be seen. I'm going to tell you guys who we can trust. That's Mike Vrabel. Coach of the year last year. Why are we not talking about Vrabel's got this, we can trust Mike? Thanks, guys. I'll take it offline.
It's because Vrabel ain't making plays.
Right. Because eventually, look, you could be a great coach, but eventually the guys have to go out there and execute what you tell them to do.
Like, I know we brag about Belichick.
Well, do we trust Mike for going for too early in that game when he didn't need to?
I thought that was an insane move. Personally,
okay.
If we just want to that in a vacuum, I didn't understand why in the world that happened.
Either it's just breaking the algorithm, or it's just saying screw the computers. I don't know. Well, we brag on Belichick.
But to that point, I mean, Vrabel was coach of the year for a reason. Vrabel's a hell of a coach. We know that. He gets compared to Mike Tomlin. You get compared to Mike Tomlin. Obviously, you're doing something right. He's very, very good. But if you don't have the guys, it doesn't matter. Belichick, the point you were making, is dead right. I think the Patriots are dropping off a cliff this year. Even though they may have a quarterback. They don't have anything else.
Why did Tom want to go to Tampa?
He knew it.
Come on, man. And it ain't a diss by saying it. I agree with you. Vrabel's daggone good.
He's great.
He is. And I think he will keep this organization stable as ever. But you got to get them Jimmys and Joes too, man. And I feel like they don't trust Joe at quarterback as much as other teams trust their quarterback.
Well, let's also add this too. I think it was a 2nd and 1 and a 3rd and 1, maybe even a 4th down in that game against Cincinnati, where you're expecting your guys and your guy in Derrick Henry to produce. and they didn't, and Cincinnati stopped them.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the line of scrimmage,
It
wasn't
wasn't all Ryan Tannehill. Now, Tannehill, for obvious reasons, was the convenient scapegoat for that.
Interceptions are home runs. You remember them.
Absolutely. But there were other issues involved in terms of both coaching, in terms of both execution with the offense in short down situations, that they didn't get the job done. If you're the Titans, the viewpoint coming out of there is this. We don't turn the ball over, we win the game, because all the losses last year go back to they were negative turnover margin.
That's right.
When they turn the ball over, they lose. When they don't turn the ball over in terms of keep it 0 turnover margin, or they're in the plus category, they're going to win the vast majority of the time. So that's why they're thinking we're that close from a Super Bowl. And it's also the same reason why people on the outside are looking at them and saying, yeah, nice try.
Puka does make a good point. He says, look, there have been questionable calls on punting and not punting as well. Look, Vrabel doesn't bat 1,000 on decision-making. There's no question about that.
No coach does, right.
But exactly, no coach does. But I do think he's a really, really good head coach.
You want him. You want him is what you're saying at all times. He is the guy.
Yeah, you want him.
In the building.
You definitely want him. The only thing I say, because everybody's just like, who can you trust? And they're all excited about the newcomers. Just understand every NFL fan base, other than just a couple of just absolute trash ones in terms of they just don't believe in those teams and never have. They all are just like, man, this rookie's going to show out. That's going to happen in some cases. It's not going to happen in others.
Yeah.
There's going to be a couple busts. There always are. You just hope some hit, and they hit in crucial spots. All right. We finished up the week. Buck Rising is coming up next. What do you call Samsung security guards?
A droid?
Guardians of the Galaxy. See you Monday.
Enjoy yourself. Stay cool. Check on your elderly. And remember, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.